In previous video, I have talked about how to identify suppliers' background, such like if they are the real manufacturer, trading company, or wholesalers, and also explain how to identify if they are professional and reliable enough that you can have long-term business together. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the next very important thing that you're gonna do. That is to get a precise quotation from suppliers. You may hear of trade terms like FOB, CIF, EXW, but you probably don't understand what kind of costs are included or which term you should let the supplier quote you for different situations. Actually, you don't need to know too deeply about this kind of trading knowledge. Just take away my conclusion in today's content. In addition to trade terms, I also shared a lot of tips that you can use when getting quotes from suppliers to avoid some unexpected price changes or product changes after you place order. Welcome to watch the Import from China Guide video series. I'm Jing, the founder of JingSourcing, the leading China sourcing company since 2015. And I will teach you the most practical tips to import quality products from China. So make sure you get subscribed. When you're getting quotes from suppliers, you should tell them that which trade term they need to use to quote you the price for the products. Because importers have different requirements on how suppliers should deliver products, either shipped to a certain port in China or a port in your country, or maybe you just find someone to pick up cargoes at the supplier's warehouse. Accordingly, suppliers have different responsibility and cost for this kind of situations, and that's why they should quote you product price in different trade terms, and the most famous one is FOB. But I find there are a lot of tutorials on internet that teach the wrong information. They encourage you always to get a FOB price. However, FOB term is not suitable for everyone, especially not suitable for new e-commerce sellers or small businesses or people who want to use the courier service such like FedEx to deliver products. Otherwise, you are paying a higher price, which is not necessary. In international trading, there are tons of trade terms, and there's even an international organization that will publish a book every couple of years to regulate all the trade terms. Of course, you don't need to understand this kind of textbook knowledge because they're only used for large quantity trading. What you only need to remember is the following trade terms and understand in what kind of situation you should ask supplier to quote you with trade term. The number one is FOB price. FOB means free on board. If the supplier quotes you FOB price, it includes all the costs for sending the product to the vessel of your appointed seaport or sending the product to the aircraft of your appointed airport. However, you cannot simply tell the supplier that, "Can you give me a FOB price for this wine glasses?" Because FOB price should be based on a specific seaport or airport, such like FOB Shanghai, FOB Ningbo. If you don't have a specific seaport that let the supplier to deliver to, then you can just ask a supplier, let them tell you where is their closest seaport, and then let them quote you the price based on that. Let me give you an example. If you find two suppliers, and one of them is from Dongguan, which is a city in the south part of China, it's better for him to quote FOB Shenzhen price because they're only less than 100 kilometers away from Shenzhen. And the other supplier is from Suzhou, which is less than 100 kilometers away from Shanghai, so it's better for him to quote you the FOB Shanghai price. However, you ordered a 40-feet container, which has around 6-8 cubic meter capacity, and you want to load all these two suppliers' products in this container. So in this kind of situations, you have to ask these two suppliers to quote you FOB price based on the same port. If you ordered 40 cubic meters of perfume bottles from the Suzhou supplier, then it's better to ask the bag manufacturer in Dongguan to send the products all the way to Shanghai port and quote you the FOB Shanghai price. If you don't want to spend too much money on the domestic shipping in China, that sending products from Dongguan all the way to Shanghai, which is about 1,000 kilometers, then you can try to find a bag manufacturer that close to Shanghai to replace the one in Dongguan. So if you have your own freight forwarders, that someone who can help you handle the shipping from any seaport or airport from China all the way to your country, and also help you handle the import and the custom clearance in your country, then it's very recommended for you to let the supplier quote you the product price in FOB term, because you don't need to worry about how far away it is from the supplier's warehouse to the seaport, and also you don't need to worry about what is domestic shipping cost in China. And if you don't have a warehouse in China, but you want to let the suppliers from different part of China to ship all their products into one place and consolidate into one shipment, then it's also very recommended to let all the suppliers quote your product price in the FOB term, but they should be based on the same port. Here is also very important information. When the supplier is calculating the cost for the FOB service, there will be some fixed cost, which is about a couple hundred US dollars in each shipment. That means if you are buying less quantity in each shipment, then the average FOB cost on each product will be more expensive. For example, if the manufacturer's original price for a perfume bottle is the same no matter you order 1,000 or 10,000 units, but the FOB price for 1,000 unit will be much higher than 10,000 unit because of the fixed FOB cost in each shipment. So if the volume of the product you purchase is not very large quantity, like less than 2 cubic meter or less than 500 kilograms, then it's not recommended to get the FOB quote, and also not recommended to ship by the sea freight or air freight, but try courier service instead. However, when you want to use FedEx or DHL, this kind of door-to-door delivery courier service, you cannot let the supplier quote you in FOB term, because courier companies, they won't go to place like seaport or airport to pick up cargoes, and instead they will go to your supplier's warehouse to get your product. However, the FOB cost has already included all the costs for shipping products from supplier's warehouse to the port and until the product load on vessel or aircraft, and also the cost for the exporting process. If you are paying the FOB price, then you are paying the extra money, which is going to your supplier's pocket. So in this kind of situation, you need to get a EXW price. EXW is short for EX Works. It's the manufacturer's original product price, and it doesn't include any other service or domestic shipping costs. You need to find your own freight forwarders to go to supplier's warehouse to get the product. So when you are comparing the price between different suppliers, let them quote you the EXW price. Then you can understand who can literally produce this product for the lowest price. As I mentioned above, when you are using courier service like FedEx to ship products, you have to let the supplier quote you the EXW price, because courier companies, they will travel to supplier's place to pick up the product. In addition, when you are not purchasing very large quantity for one product, the fixed cost part of the FOB price will make each unit's price looks very high. That is not very convenient when you are doing the product research, or not convenient for you to decide how much quantity that you should buy. Number 4, CIF price. This is also a very common used trade term. It's short for cost, insurance, and freight. Well, for the insurance here, I just want to mention that it doesn't help if your product get damaged during the shipping. It only helps when your whole shipment get lost. If you don't have a freight forwarders to help you go to supply place to get product shipped from China to your country, or you don't want to bother to do this thing, then it's better to ask the supplier to quote you the CIF price. Then they will help ship the product to a specific seaport or airport in your country. Then you only need to find a local logistic company and a custom broker to help you handle the custom clearance and also help you arrange the shipping from the port to your warehouse. Here I need to tell you a fact. The freight cost included in the CIF price is just a very small part of the total shipping cost from supplier's warehouse in China all the way to your warehouse in your country. The biggest part of the whole shipping and import-export process costs are those costs in the import process and also the domestic shipping from the port to your warehouse. For example, the sea freight cost that included in the CIF price is only around $50 per cubic meter from China to a port in the United States. However, the actual total logistic and import-export costs that shipping from suppliers all the way to your home will cost you around $200 to $300 per cubic meter. So don't be surprised that you find the total cost from the American seaport to your warehouse is times more expensive than the freight cost included in the CIF price. The number 4 is DDP, which is short for Delivered Duty Paid. That means the price that supplier quotes you has included all the costs for sending product from Chinese suppliers all the way to your destination in your country. And the supplier will also pay all the costs for the import-export process and also the custom duty. It's very suitable for those importers who don't have any shipping company resources or who don't want to bother with the shipping and import-export issues. So if you are doing the product research and want to know how much it will cost to import the product from China, just let a supplier quote you the DDP price, and that's exactly the total importing cost. The DDP price has import duty paid, but some suppliers still prefer buyer to pay the custom duty before product being delivered. In this kind of situation, it's called DDU price, which is short for Delivered Duty Unpaid. Even though the trade term DDU is cancelled in the Incoterm 2010, but it's still widely used. However, if the supplier don't have very good resource of the freight forwarders that can help you handle the shipping to your place, then they are not able to quote you DDP price. Except for understand some basic trade terms, there's also a lot of things that you can pay attention in order to negotiate a better price. If you are quite flexible about how much quantity to purchase, but you'd like to know how much the price that supplier can offer first, then I strongly recommend you to ask a supplier to give you a price list for quantity breakdowns. Most Chinese manufacturers or trading companies, they will have an MOQ starts from $1,000 and usually when you can order over than 5,000 or 10,000 US dollars, then there will be some related discount. Well, the discount will be based on the product or suppliers, and that's why you need to ask a supplier first. So, what is the maximum discount that supplier can offer you if you can increase a large quantity? It's really based on the supply and product, but I can give you a rough idea is that usually 5 or 10% will be a maximum for most of the cases. Because manufacturing is very low profit business and it's very normal that you got almost the same price no matter you order 10,000 or 100,000 units of the same products as it's reached their lowest price. Well, here's one thing that I don't suggest you to do is that you negotiate with a supplier for a very low price for very large quantity like 10,000 units. But eventually, you only place order for 1,000 units or even less, and you still want to use the price of 10,000 units. And this will make the supplier upset and they will feel like being tricked. That's not good for maintaining a good business relationship with them. When you're getting quotes from suppliers, there's one thing that you need to double check. Does the price include the packaging costs and what kind of packaging is that? Let's take perfume bottle as example. Assume the supplier quotes you $1.50 for 1 unit and you have seen on their website or Alibaba product page that this perfume bottle has a white box together. So you place order of 1,000 units, but eventually you find each bottle is packed with bubble wrap instead of the white paper box. And the supplier will explain that the bubble wrap is their default packaging and a white box will cost an extra 15 cents. That is 10% increase on the product price. And sometimes if you want to make your own private label products, such like printing your logo on the product or print some graphic design on the packaging box, and supplier will tell you that they can help you with this, but You didn't ask what is the cost, so you thought they're doing this for free. After you place order and send them deposit, they start to charge you for the customization, which is not you expected. So don't expect all the suppliers will tell you the detailed cost for specific packaging or customization. You'd better to double check with them before you place order. The number 4 thing you need to check when you are getting quotes from suppliers is to make sure if the price they offered is for inventory products or brand new made. For most of the cases, when you are buying products in quantity, manufacturers usually start production after you place order. But sometimes, suppliers have some inventories and will sell a very low price in order to clean them out. So when you want to order the product for the second time, you will find the price is 20%, 30%, or even more higher than the first order because the older inventory was sold out and you have to pay the original price to start a new production. So when you are comparing prices among different suppliers, and if one of them offers much lower price than others, then you need to make sure if he is selling inventory items. Maybe it's overstocked products which has been left in their warehouse for quite a long time. It's more likely to have dust, rust, or other defects. If you are not so picky about getting the lowest price, I suggest you always to get new made products, because only in this way you can ensure that all the product quality can be remained quite the same no matter which time you ordered in the future. And for those overstocked inventory products, you have no idea about what has happened to them. And you cannot always expect the supplier will tell you the price is for inventory or new production. You have to ask them first. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you have very clear understanding about trade terms and also learn what kind of things you need to pay attention when you try to get quotes from suppliers. Do you have any questions about today's topic? Please leave it in the comment. And if you like today's video, please give me a thumbs up and also get subscribed. And I will see you in the next video.